The Bucs shot down the Jets in the preseason opener thanks to some stellar play from some Tampa Bay rookies. Now it's on to the preseason home opener against the Kansas City Chiefs this Saturday night, where we'll see Baker Mayfield and the starters play. Baker had a lot to say today after practice, so we'll get to that and more in this episode of Bucs Collective. No, we're not the Avengers. We're not the X-Men. We're the Fantastic Three, known as Bucs Collective, and we're here to talk Bucs football with you as well as interact with you and answer your questions when you super chat us. I'm Scott Reynolds from Pewter Report. Each week I'll be joined by Fox Sports NFL reporter Greg Auman, who focuses a lot on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, if you haven't figured that out yet, and Tampa Bay Times longtime Bucs beat writer Rick Stroud had a great piece about Baker Mayfield we'll talk about in just a second. The Bucs Collective is brought to you by HMA and presented by Prize Picks, America's #1 sports app. Sign up for Prize Picks, and when you use promo code HMA, new users can play $5 and get $150 in bonus lineups if you win your first lineup. Before we get into the Bucs discussion tonight, please, you guys have been fantastic as an audience. Please help us get to 2,000 subscribers by next week. We'd love to hit that milestone. Hit the share button on this video and send it to your friends, your family, your coworkers who are Bucs fans. Let them know about the Bucs Collective. Also, hit the like button on this video and leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you. All right, Rick, your Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 1-0 in the preseason. But we get to see Baker Mayfield, and that's probably a little bit more exciting, although it was pretty exciting when we saw Jalen Daniels out there. We'll get to that Jets wrap-up in a second. But Baker Mayfield had a lot to say today. Whenever Baker talks, we listen. And today was one of those days where he tackled a lot of topics. What stood out to you from today's practice when Baker addressed the media?
Well, he still has that chip on his shoulder. We know that. He's collecting receipts like Jason Light does from people around the country that are saying that this football team may not, have a 500 record or better. And that seems to be a popular opinion. But he's going to invent it even if there isn't one. Having talked to him in New Jersey, and then he repeated some of it today, I think the thing that Baker is really excited about as much as anything is the defense.
Yeah.
And some of the attitude guys that are like Baker Mayfield, guys that have a little edge to them. And he has competed against this defense in training camp. They're obviously large men for the most part. They've gotten bigger.
Yes.
He said something about Josiah Trotter today that you just don't hear veteran players say about a rookie. And just how what a badass he is, and not just that, but a good player on top of it. So I think Baker is he's always confident, right? But I think he sees that what the Bucs have done in the offseason gives them a chance, and as does Zach Robinson. I mean, let's be honest. The most important guy, I think, to Baker Mayfield is the offensive coordinator. He didn't have a lot of answers at the line of scrimmage last year. They couldn't run the football, and I think the decimation of the offensive line was the biggest part of that. We saw Tristan Wirfs come back this week and do some things individually. So surely when they get him back, they're going to be a better offensive line. But if you can run the football the way they did 2 years ago, and they're a top 5 offense rushing team, then they're going to be really hard to beat. But I also, talking to Baker, he doesn't feel like they're going to have to score 30 points a game to win either.
Yeah, right.
So that's the difference, right? Like if you have some balance, and we've seen them go back and forth in training camp, I think that gives them some encouragement. So, yeah, overall, he's always upbeat, and we can get into some of the things he told me with respect to, his contract and just reuniting with his family and stuff later. But Baker wants people to know that he's got a chip, and it's getting wider, and he's starting to get a little bit in the game mode. He's feeling himself for the preseason game. So, yeah, he's pretty excited to play, I think.
Greg, when I was watching practice with you guys today, one thing we saw was red zone, and Baker was dealing today.
Yeah.
I said on the Pewter Report podcast earlier today, it was almost like Oprah Winfrey was out at practice going, "You get a touchdown, you get a touchdown, you get a touchdown, and one for you." I mean, he was lighting it up, and we saw Jalen McMillan return to practice today. We saw touchdowns from Ted Hurst, Chris Godwin Jr., Dean Patterson the fourth, David Sills the fifth. I mean, it was an onslaught in the red zone today, and Baker was just having one of those days. It seems like this is game week for Baker Mayfield, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, it's his only chance to get out there and play in the next 3-4 weeks. So I think you want to be sharp. It's against the Chiefs, so it's not like it's a nobody opponent. It's somebody where you can go out there, even if you just leave at the end of the first quarter and you're up 10-7 on Patrick Mahomes and Kelsey, that's going to mean something to him.
Yeah.
You take your victories where you can in the preseason. And I do think it's one of those where Baker likes being slighted. It's very much a Jason Light thing. In that today he comes out and the quote is that everybody's picking us to have a losing record, he says.
Right.
Greg Auman at NFL comes in, he's like, hey, Baker, just not me.
Right.
Be a good thing. He doesn't care. It's
right.
like it doesn't sound as good when you say more than half the people are picking us to have a losing record. He needs to think that everybody is taking them not to win the NFC South, because that's what gets him motivated. And I don't think he needs any extra motivation in what right now is a contract year for him.
Right.
But I think he welcomes all slights this time of year and just adds them to the kitty.
Yeah, had some really wonderful things to say about Kenny Gainwell. And we didn't see Bucky Irving too much in the offseason when he was rehabbing that shoulder injury, but we got to see Kenneth Gainwell as the starting running back during the OTAs, and the mandatory minicamp. Bucky was back, but he got a lot of carries during that part of the offseason. And then when Bucky was healthy and returned to training camp, Bucky got a lot of the carries to kind of catch up a little bit in this offense. And we've just seen Kenny Gainwell explode as a receiver, not just a swing pass guy, not just a screen guy, guys running down the field. And just look at what he did to Alex Anzalone last year when he was a Steeler and Anzalone was a Lion, catching touchdown passes 50 yards down the field. He's a dynamic weapon. And I remember talking to Todd Bowles out there at the NFL annual meeting in Phoenix, and Bowles said right off the bat, Kenny Gainwell is 1B and Bucky Irving is 1A. This is not a 1-2 punch. This is a 1A, 1B punch, Rick. And I'm excited to see what Kenny Gainwell can do in this offense. We're going to see some pony package. Maybe not Saturday night, but we're going to see the pony package come back with a vengeance here, because you got three good backs, including Sean Tucker. You got to find ways to get those guys in the field. There's only one ball, but you can get two guys on the field in the pony package.
Yeah, they're going to not show a lot of that, I think. But this should be a really good screen team this year.
Yeah.
It should be a team that has those guys available in the flat, and I think they will play them together. I think you'll see them where they both go that way, and Baker can kind of – he's told me, he goes, look, more than any other year, I just got to play point guard.
Yeah.
I can still grip it and rip it with the best of them, and we know that.
Yeah.
But really, it's just getting the ball in guys' hands. And I was talking to Greg about this today. I mean, these guys might catch – Gainwell could catch 60, 75 passes, and I don't think that's a stretch. And the great thing about it is we saw Bucky Irving get hurt for the first time, I guess, in his life last year. And, they got kind of bogged down with a lot of the inside zone runs, and things like that. And really – the strength of the offensive line, if you can mix that up and get them with some of these outside zones, I think it might be better for Bucky's health for sure. Yeah. And also, to have a Gainwell, he doesn't have to have 25 touches a game.
That's right.
He might get 15, but if he's Barry Bonds and every time he takes it, he can go to the house, then that's what you want from Bucky Irving. You don't have to beat them up in the demolition derby. Just drive the Ferrari and on the highway and you're good. So, but Gainwell can do all those dirty things. He's not an explosive runner. He doesn't have kind of breakaway speed. Bucky doesn't need it necessarily. But man, he was a receiver at Memphis. Yep. He runs great routes. He presents very well. He catches everything. And I just know that Baker's really comfortable with him. So, yeah, I think – and then, we've seen what Sean Tucker can do. Hell, Josh Williams made a couple moves inside the 10-yard line last week. It was like, that's pretty good, man. Gruden was going to come through the TV if he does that on Saturday night. So they feel good about the running backs, but they all do similar things, and that can be good or bad. What they don't have is that big pounding physical back, but really Tucker is kind of morphed into their short yardage goal line guy, for better or worse, and he had what, 7 or 8 touchdowns last year.
I know, Greg. It seems to me that, and I've always been a big back fan, just of the game. Like what my first football hero was John Riggins back with the Washington Redskins back in the day. Then one of the first teams I started covering the Bucs in '95. Mike Allstott, the A Train arrives in '96. LeGarrette Blount. This team has had some of those big backs. They're fun to watch. LeGarrette Blount.
Oh yeah.
Lombardi Lenny, but when you look at Atlanta, they had kind of the speed athlete in Bijan Robinson. You had Tyler Algier, the big hammer. You had the kind of the plodding, pounding back, and Rashad White here, and then you had Bucky Irving, kind of like the scat back guy that can make you miss and pick up 5 yards of carry. Interestingly enough, Zach Robinson doesn't have that this year, but there's 3 running backs that all are kind of similarly built.
Yeah,
they all have some similar traits. They all can catch the ball out of the backfield. I think maybe Bucky's maybe not the best pass protector out of the two, but Tucker's improved in that area. Gainwell is proficient in that area. Does it help Zach Robinson to go out there and have a game plan where he can put any running back in the game and there's not a tell by the defense?
Sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. These guys can all do everything. I mean, I'm not saying they're the exact same back, but the idea of them starting out in pony and you're not knowing which back is going to go out to the slot. Yeah. Lots of motion, lots of misdirection before the snap. You really see so little from these offenses in the preseason. It's just extremely vanilla, cookie cutter offenses. But one thing I did see, the first play of the second drive up in New York against the Jets, they line up with 2 receivers and 2 tight ends, Tucker, and they take Tucker and they move him out wide to the left. So now they have an empty backfield and basically 5 receivers.
Right.
Tucker runs a wheel route that draws the defense back, and that opens Ted Hurst down the side, down the left for an easy first down catch.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to see that. I think you're just going to see a lot of moving pieces. Those running backs, we're going to call them running backs, but they're going to be slot receivers. They're
weapons.
Yeah, honestly, we always talk about chess pieces on defense for Todd Bowles and these versatile nickel safety blitzing types. But he has some really cool chess pieces on offense now, too. The tight ends, I swear, half the time I saw tight ends on Friday in New York, they were split out. They were moving before the snap. They're not just hunched next to the tackle every time you see them. So I do think there's a little bit more creativity this year. Zach Robinson had different personnel in Atlanta, like you said.
Yeah.
But I think he found ways to use 2 backs and to even take his best back off the field in red zone in the fourth quarter and get specialty carries out of Algier effectively and probably better than what Bijan was doing at the end of games last year. So I wouldn't rule anything out with how he's going to handle these 3 backs and what the roles will be by the time you get halfway through the season.
Yeah, Rick, we'll talk about Baker Mayfield and the starters closer to the end of the show. We have to get to the Jets game first because that was actually a pretty exciting, entertaining preseason game. I think because of the talent and the depth on this team, they're not scrub McGee's out there. The third and second string guys for the Bucs can actually play. This is a pretty deep and talented roster. But let's end our little conversation right now about Baker Mayfield. You had a chance to talk to him exclusively up there in New Jersey during that Jets Bucs week of joint practices and the preseason game. You got a great piece up on the Tampa Bay Times. Without giving the whole thing away, what were some of your main takeaways about this and what maybe surprised you in talking to Baker?
Yeah, and there'll be a lot more as we get closer to the season. But the story that I wrote in TampaBay.com, thanks for the plug, is really, it was just sort of a year of healing. We saw the quarterback series on Netflix. He's watching that game in the kitchen by himself, and he's seeing New Orleans go down to Atlanta, and just the emotions of that. And all the missed opportunities. That's all he could think about was like, geez, if I make a better throw here or don't make a throw there, just one more win and they're in the postseason. And then you never know what's going to happen. Although I think they weren't very good. I don't know how far they would have gone, but that aside.
Dan Feeney and Mike Jordan can only take you so far, right?
That's right. And let's be honest, he knew that was the issue, but he was also, and he talked about, just, the injuries and having, his body coach come down and I didn't know this, but apparently it's like a party. It's like a TB12 at his own home with a bunch of guys that go over there and get worked on by his guy and Dave Matthews, who is not the rocker, but maybe they play the music. I don't know. But and then the other thing, you think about all the injuries he played with, and he even said that against the Rams after that game probably shouldn't have played, but did play against Arizona and beat them. but then reconnecting with his family. We know that a couple of years ago there was kind of an awful story where him and Emily had to ask sort of where $10 million had gone, and it all ended up in a essentially a civil suit. And there obviously was a rift between Baker and his family, and it was it's devastating, I think, to anybody that has that happen. Yeah. His parents have been to every game until 2019, and I mean high school, college, both colleges, pro.
Then all of a sudden they become grandparents, right?
And now they're 2 times over. And so a year ago, in April 2025, he went down there. His daughter was 1 year old. Maverick was not born yet, but and he just slowly trying to do the work to reconnect with his family, which I think is as important as anything that's happened to Baker Mayfield in the last year or two. I think you have to have kind of a clear headspace to be a professional athlete and do, handle the pressure that these guys do. So it's a look kind of into his psyche a little bit and what he went through last year physically and mentally. And he'll have more to say about his team. And I think we heard some of that today, guys, when he was just, kind of gushing about the attitude and things and some of the players like Josiah Trotter and others. So the Baker is, very introspective. When he starts talking, it's very thoughtful. And I think that people would be surprised, maybe not surprised, but, he does put a lot into everything he says, everything he does. Everything is very intentional with him. And I think we've seen that since he got here. Yeah.
One thing we've seen a lot of is David Walker getting sacks. I talked to him today after practice. We do a camp diary on Peter Report TV, our YouTube channel, and he's gotten a sack in every single practice, every single one. The only time he didn't get a sack was actually in the game. But you know what? He did something better, and we talked about that today. I'm like, sometimes, and you saw this last year, David, when Jacob Parrish missed a sack on Tyrod Taylor against the Jets, what happened? He threw a pick 6 to Jamel Dean, and that ended up being better than the sack. And David said, I kind of laughed about that. And it's like, I was like, oh, shoot. I missed the sack. And then it's like, oh, man, go, Aiden Garnes. And Aiden Garnes went all the way to the end zone and had quite a pick 6 and quite a coming out party. Now, the thing is, we've seen Aiden Garnes in practice, guys. This is not really a surprise to us because every day he's out there breaking up passes and just being a menace. He does not look like a rookie, much less an undrafted free agent, Greg. But there's something special about this kid. And so when he takes it to another level, getting a pick 6 that ties the score, ends up leading the comeback for the Buccaneers in this game, once the Jet starters get out of the way. Just an impressive exclamation point to a fantastic camp that he's had so far.
Yeah, and it's been that way since the first week. I can remember, initially you had that shock of wow, Garnes is working with the ones. And you kind of do the math of Morrison's hurt. And I guess. And then keeps showing up with the ones. And again, holding his own. I think he had a nice TFL really early in the game where already you knew he was doing stuff in the Jets game long before the pick. And the pick is just a beautiful play. I mean, if you watch the pick when he gets it, it's just jumping a route and making a play and going all the way to the end zone. Yeah. We've kind of gotten to talk to him a little bit. I mean, he was kind of under the radar in terms of not being on the podium, not talking to the media. And he's a really neat story. I mean, he's a guy that you would pull for beyond just the long shot, undrafted rookie odds. He's talking to us this week about, again, this guy finished his career at Arizona, had a year at West Virginia, but spent 3 years at Duquesne. I mean, he's a small school kid. That's 3 years of completely under the radar of everything. And was talking about how, again, there's this amazing story where he's at Duquesne and one of his coaches convinces him to sign up for the bone marrow registry. Okay. Yeah. Which again, there's not a lot of 19-year-olds volunteering themselves. And it's 6 months later, 6 months later. I mean, I get excited when people donate blood. Okay.
Right.
And here he is 6 months later, his name comes back and he's a match and it's in the middle of winter workouts. And it's hey, if you do this, you're not gonna be able to work out for 3 weeks. And he still does it. You think about how much football means to him and he'll pause that for 3 weeks. It is, again, when I think about things that are pleasant experiences, donating bone marrow is not high on the list. No. He's talking to us about how they put, it's incisions behind your hips.
Yeah.
And there's a picture of him, in the hospital bed. And to his credit, again, you think about it, if there's ever karma in the world for somebody to get a break and to go through the draft and still have the confidence to push through and do what he's done, it's working for him now. So it's neat. It's like, you don't want to say that somebody's made the 53 after only 1 week.
I've already said it.
If the next
something's wrong if he didn't make the 53, right?
What do I got to do, right?
Right?
If the next 2 weeks are anything like what he had with the Jets, he's in really good shape to be one of the better stories and the success stories of this draft class and this Bucs roster.
Yeah, Rick, he's benefited from Benjamin Morrison being out. And I wrote over the weekend on PeterReports.com that we're going to see Benjamin Morrison this week. And sure enough, we did. And he's made it through 2 practices, knock on wood. The hamstrings are still intact. Hopefully he gets to the game. This is a guy that has missed 4 of the eligible preseason games that he has had the chance to play in. But he's been hurt with hamstring injuries last year, missed an entire training camp last year, pretty much 4 weeks, missed all 3 preseason games, finally suited up in pads this week, these last 2 practices here. And he gets a chance to play on Saturday against the Chiefs, if he makes it there. Fingers crossed, Benjamin. But Aiden Garnes, though, doesn't he make you think a little bit about, like, hey, maybe keep me a little high in the depth chart? Because look what the NFL is a what have you done for me lately league, is it not?
Yeah, I don't know how far he's going to fall because they simply don't have any depth. You're talking about once you get past Zion and Benjamin, I guess, Parrish, I suppose, could play out there, maybe Keontae Scott. You're talking about rookies and guys that were undrafted at that. And I think they've done a great job. The thing about Garnes, who's just a great kid, as you already documented here, his thing is he's small. He's not a big frame guy. And the question is whether or not, I know he had the TFL, but like, can he consistently get down big backs? Is he going to miss tackles in space? I mean, Todd Bowles needs those corners to come up and set the edge and make tackles sometimes. And that's not his strong suit. Don't have any trouble with him in coverage. I think he can do that. He's got good ball skills. He's a bright kid. He's played a lot of football. I think that's the biggest thing. But they're not deep at corner in terms of experience. With Morrison, I've done this a long time, so have you, Scott. And it's like, I have a tough time blaming players for being injured because God knows they don't want to be. If Morrison, who had problems with his hips coming out of high school and whatnot, and if he doesn't have that injury at Notre Dame and has to have his other hip operated on, he's a first-round pick. I mean, you watch the tape of this guy. He's incredibly instinctive. He's really athletic. He has great hands. He's just a playmaker, and he just hasn't had a chance to show it. And I don't know that the hip is connected to the hamstring is connected. I don't, maybe it has something to do with his, just his problems. But if he ever gets past that,
he can be a player.
He knows how to play football. But when he was drafted, we said this, like, you had Jamel Dean, who was often hurt. You had Carlton Davis. Who was like, why are you drafting a guy in the second round already with a history, came to you with a history of injuries and no surprise, I know it's not the same one, but he's not been able to stay on the football field. So bit of bad luck, but it can turn. I've seen it turn. Jamel Dean was a guy that, he tear both ACLs or something like that. I mean, he, and still got back and could run a 4.40. So I'm rooting for the guy. I just want to see him stay healthy and show what he can do.
Yeah. I mean, the problem I have is just, it's been such a recurring thing. And it almost reminds me of in a different way, different players, different type of injuries. But it's like when Brian Price, the former Bucs defensive tackle, when he had that pelvic surgery, they had to reattach his hamstrings with screws. Yeah. And that was something he just couldn't recover from. And I am not a doctor. Neither is Todd Bowles, by the way. But I look at this and I'm like, is there something to those hip surgeries that were corrective in nature? And he had to have both. He did one in high school, then one in college. But is there something to that is making the hamstring a little tighter and more susceptible to these type of injuries? I don't know, but it's just it's crazy how many times this guy's had hamstring injuries. He hasn't even been here a year and a half yet.
I know.
Yeah, with Morrison, what keeps sticking out to me is how much the coaches and the leadership of this team trust him. In that, again, basically liked him enough to push Jamel Dean out the door. I mean,
Right.
Dean only stayed on a pay cut last year.
Right.
They let him walk in free agency. Really didn't sign an outside corner. The only two vets they signed, Chase Lucas and Kamon Hall, they're both gone already.
Yeah.
League types. Did not draft an outside corner. So it's kind of putting all your, I mean, you hate to say putting all your chips in the middle of the table on one guy, but they really have. And they've really trusted that Morrison, A, can stay healthy, and B, can play really well when he is healthy.
Yeah.
Parrish is there as kind of a stopgap, if you will. I think Parrish was a natural nickel, is a little smaller outside, so it's probably not ideal to have him be an every down corner out there, but they like him. They like both of them.
Right.
If you can build around a young secondary, you think about what they had, 19 and 20 when they had Murphy Bunting and Mike Edwards and Jamel Dean, all these young, Carlton Davis, all those young corners. If you can build with them on a rookie contract while they're cheap, it can really put a secondary to where they're on the same page and they work together. And I think the hope is Winfield's really the only old soul in that backfield right now. Everybody else is second or third year, young guys that can learn and grow together. They just need Morrison to stay healthy.
Aiden Garnes was not the only star on Friday night. Just when we thought, oh, wow, this is going to be the storyline here. In the second half comes one Jalen Daniels, who I've gotten to know quite a bit. He does the camp diary for us at Pewter Report. And just we've talked about it before. This guy's personality is just off the charts. I mean, we're supposed to be impartial. We're supposed to be neutral reporters and stuff. You can't help but not like Jalen Daniels. He will make you like him as a person. But then when you see him play, gosh darn it, you like him as a player too, don't you, Rick? I mean, this he's exciting. When I look at Connor Baselak, and granted, we have to be fair and objective here. Baselak played against the Jets starters for at least a series or two, right? And, he's not – Jalen Daniels was not getting chased by David Bailey or by Will McDonald in the second half of that game. So we have to, put an asterisk by. But when you look at Connor Baselak, he and Jake Browning, who returned to practice this week, are a little similar. They're pocket passers, right? That they've got some good intermediate short passing games to them. This kid's a little bit more like Baker Mayfield. He can take off and scoot with it. He's got 4.65 speed, picked up a first down with his legs in that game. And Baker's got a rocket arm. This kid has got a live arm, and he threw 35 yards on a frozen rope to Garrett Green. And he's working with Chandler Whitmer. He's working with TJ Yates and Coach Z-Rob, as he calls him. But there's something kind of special about this kid where I think he might have the inside track for QB3, and that might be on the roster this year, Rick. What do you think?
Yeah, it's hard to keep three quarterbacks, but they'll have to make a decision what to do for sure. It was kind of like watching – you ever go to high school jamboree and the varsity plays the first half and then put the JV in? And you're like, well, the JV quarterback's better than the guy I just watched.
Yeah.
But what they liked about him was that, for all his athleticism, and he has a bunch, he won from the pocket. He stayed in the pocket until he couldn't. He made yards, got down, did that sort of thing. But he was on time with the ball. He was very accurate. And you're right. He has a quick twitch. He has a live arm. He has a fast release. The game's not too big for him. He knew where to go with the football. He was able to read it out. Those things that you just want to see. The poise is the biggest thing at that position, right? Like how quickly can he make decisions? Is he gonna, the bright lights? I mean, New York City was in the shadows literally, and so if you can start there, you make it there. You make it anywhere. But he was really excited, more excited than any player I think I've interviewed after a preseason game. He was just, this is his dream. And, but I mean, he played a lot of college football, Scott. I mean, he was, he's been working at this for a long, long time. And I like guys, if I were drafting quarterbacks, and thank God I'm not, but if I were, I would love to see a guy that's played 45, 50 games in college, because I just think being out there, being the man that has to make decisions, being able to slow your heartbeat, and some of these big, he played in the same conference you're very familiar with. If you can, go into those places and execute, it's not going to be too big for him. So people are comparing him, maybe Sean King, or maybe, I don't know. And I think, he's not going to be the number two, but he's playing like a number two right now. And yes, he has got the same skill sets as Baker Mayfield in terms of his ability to throw at different angles, his running. And I
Same
think he'll
size
be
too, 6'1",
same size,
215.
same six, yeah, they can share, shoulder pads or whatever. But I think what he'll help them with is the scout squad in terms of like, you're going to be that guy. If they play an athletic quarterback, a guy with escapability, a guy with a big arm, he can play that scout squad role against their defense. And that's a very important job at times.
No, it is. And we saw Garrett Green, who was a former quarterback at West Virginia, Greg. He played as the practice squad quarterback a lot like that too. Now you have a guy that can do it, and maybe you have Garrett Green play wide receiver where he's trying to make this roster. Maybe he makes the practice squad again. And Rick, you're right. I did happen to see Jalen Daniels play my Kansas State Wildcats, and he was 0-6 against K-State. So I like Jalen a lot.
I knew that was coming. Yeah.
I'll tell you this though. He scared the crap out of us a couple of those years for sure. This guy really kind of brought the Jayhawk program back to prominence, and took him to a bowl game or two. When you look at him, Greg, what's more impressive, the arm or the leg, or is it just the combination of the fact that the Buccaneers have a quarterback that is similar to Baker Mayfield? You look at certain teams like the Baltimore Ravens. It's like you've got Lamar Jackson. They've tried to find some guys in terms of playing backup that if Lamar Jackson goes out of the game, you're not going to replace him with another Lamar Jackson, but there's another guy that can run your offense a little bit. And what I like about this kid is he is kind of like the total package from a physical standpoint, and he can mimic some of what Baker does, although he has hardly any NFL experience. This is only one preseason game, though.
Yeah, it's hard. When you look at this, it's really hard to make him your two, to have an undrafted rookie who hasn't played at all. Jake Browning isn't a wow quarterback, but he's been in the NFL for 7 years.
And the team likes him. They like him.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Nothing about Jalen is at Jake's expense. And the question now, and it's kind of a nice problem to have, is they have to decide if they think they could get Jalen Daniels through waivers to come back on their practice squad, because it's not up to him. It all the stuff that Bucs fans see and are impressed by in preseason, 31 other NFL teams that are looking for a developmental quarterback see that as well. Yeah. So if he has any other games in the preseason that validate this, that show, hey, he probably should have been a draft pick, Once you see that, they're going to recognize that they can't get him through waivers, which means you have to really think hard about keeping him on the roster as a QB3. And once you're doing that, that's a whole different thing. That takes a depth spot away from another position. Sure. But now you're there. You're learning. If you're inactive as a third quarterback, you can still play if the first two get hurt. So you're a lot closer to the real thing, if you will. And I think his excitement and his enthusiasm are one of the better stories of camp. There's so many. We'll talk about other undrafted rookies, but I remember first week of camp. It's just one of those where, again, you got the crowd there. And Baker's not going to do it because Baker's done it for a long time. But Baker just looks at him and points at him and kind of just has Jalen do a lap in front of the crowd and jump up and down and get him excited. And it's not even like it's heavy lifting for Jalen Daniels. His default is enthusiasm, his excitement, energy. And you want that. It's kind of like if you have a chance to have somebody who's the young pup in the room, who's eager and wants to learn. Chandler Whitmer's super young as a quarterback. Yeah. So the idea, if somebody that just coached in college and just developed a player at the college level, he's really well suited to, in the background, work with your number three. And again, there's not a world in which you'd play Jalen Daniels unless there's multiple injuries on the field. Yeah. But it's so nice to have a quarterback in your system, if you will, that's a prospect. That's just somebody, it's like the Bucs have kind of cycled through. Obviously, Kyle Trask could have been that guy and wasn't. Mm-hmm. Bazelak was the guy last year. They've had a couple that they thought might be, but this is somebody where, again, if you get somebody on a rookie contract, that's 4 years you can develop them. Yeah. And if he's not your two right now, maybe in 2 years he is your two, that kind of thing. Right. And I think there's an excitement. I'll be curious to see Saturday against the Chiefs, people play in the preseason in descending order. Okay. And you know that every time that another quarter passes, you're playing with lesser players and you're playing against lesser players. So I'll be really curious to see. Again, we know that Baker's going to start. I think Browning probably gets the rest of the second half. Who do they turn to open the second half? Because it wouldn't surprise me if they give Daniels the chance to go out there to start the second half and then bring Bazelak in to end the game, which would point to that being a really good open competition, not only for QB3, but for making a case for why QB3 should be on the 53.
That's right. We're going to see QB1 out there on Saturday when the Kansas City Chiefs come to town. And right now we're going to do some Prize Picks. Greg, we've got the Prize Picks lineup for tonight. Prize Picks, America's #1 sports picks app. All you have to do is download the app, use promo code HMA, and when you do, you're going to play $5 in your first $5 lineup. You're going to win $150 if you win that lineup. So, Greg, what do we have tonight on deck with our Prize Picks?
This is getting fairly granular here, okay? We're looking at quarterback rushing over-unders, okay?
Yeah.
And all it takes for Joe Burrow to hit the over-under is 5.5 rushing yards, okay?
In week one.
In week 1 against the Bucs, 5.5 rushing yards. How many times did Joe Burrow rush for more than 5.5 yards last year? Only 3 times.
Okay.
He's not a mobile quarterback. So it feels like a tantalizingly low number. Only 3 times last year. Baker, on the other hand, Baker's at 16.5. Again, not a huge total for a running quarterback. I think he had 35 in week 1 last year. Baker hit the over on 16.5 rush yards 9 times last year. It is right down the middle. But if you like that, if you want to go with an actual running back, Chase Brown's over-under 56.5 rushing yards. These are the kind of player props that you can mess around with. If you think you see a bargain, it's there for you. If you don't want to mess around with Baker Mayfield's single game rushing total, there's lots of other lines you can play there.
It's really easy. All you have to do is hit more or less and just make your picks, at least 2 player picks, and you can set your lineup. The more players you add, the more chance you have to win on Prize Picks. Again, download the app. It's America's #1 sports picks app. Use promo code HMA, and new users can play $5 and get $150 if you win. We are going to see that man on Saturday night. Looking forward to seeing Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers take on the Kansas City Chiefs. We're going to talk about that Patrick Mahomes, Baker Mayfield duel in just a minute. But there's another guy that's going to be making his Buccaneer debut. Some guy named Reuben Bain Jr. This guy's just been tearing it up. The #1 pick, of course, had a standout week in practice. Rick, you were there to see it. 3 sacks in the last practice on that Wednesday. You were on with us last Tuesday. We were talking about the Tuesday practice. This guy got 3 sacks in the practice, and we're going to see him suit up in a Tampa Bay Buccaneers uniform for the first time on Saturday.
Yeah, and I can't wait. I really enjoyed seeing this guy work. And today, we saw him after practice. Everybody was gone. It had to be more than 30 minutes after practice, maybe closer to 45 or an hour. I don't know. He is out there hitting a sled by himself. There is no one around. He's working, on his hands, on the lean, on all those things, finishing every rep. Those guys, you can't make them. It's just who he is. And I continue to just, I'm dumbfounded as to how he was there at 15. And this might wind up being, talk about hyperbole. Here we go. Sometimes you fall in to the greatest picks that you could ever make, right? Yep. Warren Sapp was not supposed to last. In fact, they traded down and still got him. He was supposed to go 1 overall. There were some rumors about drugs or this and that. They passed on him once. Right. Got him at 11 or 12, whatever it was.
12, yeah.
Like, that stuff's not supposed to happen, right? Yeah. And he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, And, oh, by the way, they picked up an extra pick in that draft and then got back in the first round and took a Derek Brooks, who was, some thought he was a safety, some thought he was a wheel. He went in the first ballot as a Hall of Famer. I'm not putting him in Canton. I'm not going to do it. I know how hard it is and how ridiculous this sounds. But again, I'll just keep saying.
He's special, though. We can use the word special. He's special.
We have watched enough football between the 3 of us knuckleheads here that we know that if he stays healthy. Now, is he going to have 4 sacks against Cincinnati? Probably not. But he might, it's going to happen sooner or later. Yeah. He's a double-digit sack guy, in my opinion. Yeah. He's going to go against grown-ass men. He hasn't played a single down in the NFL, but we're hyping him but listen, I don't think that's too big. I think he has those expectations.
He can figure it out.
And he's going to figure it out. And if he doesn't, he'll die trying because he is not going to get outworked. He has, from what I understand and talking to guys around him, the man truly has nothing else he's interested in except football. No. Like he literally, they can't find nice guy, quiet guy, enjoyable teammate, nothing else he wants to do. So, folks, strap it on. I don't know how many plays he'll play, but I'll watch every one of them closely.
Greg, our esteemed colleague and friend here, Rick Stroud, has a saying that I love, and I'll give him all the credit for it every time I say it. Greatness shows up early.
Yeah, it does.
And we saw that just from the guy hitting the sled during the rookie minicamp, because the violence and the power, he just is different. There's an aura about him. There's something special, a glow that just screams different. When we saw him at the rookie minicamp, running, sprinting from drill to drill, and then continue to do that in the OTAs, almost kind of showing up the veterans a little bit, But that's just who this guy is. He wants to be first. He wants to win. He's an alpha competitor. He's an alpha, period. What I like about him is, you look at last year, 4.5 sacks in the regular season for the Miami Hurricanes, right? Not a huge number. But as he started to really, come to life as a pass rusher, he started getting all the doubles and the chips. Then Akeem Messidor blows up on the other side, right?
Sure.
And then what happened in the college playoffs? Then he got 5 sacks once you get to the playoffs. So he finished with 9.5. I feel like this guy is still figuring it out, and his best football is ahead of him. I'm with Rick. I think he's a double-digit sacker. Maybe not this year. That's hard to do. Last person to do it was Micah Parsons, very good player. But what are your expectations for Ruben Bain? Like, give everybody a sack number. What do you think he's capable of doing? What do you think he will do?
Oh, I mean, even like 8 would be an outstanding number. Like, he has the highest. We talk about these player props. He has the highest over/under for any rookie for sacks for this year. It's only 5.5, which, again, given the immense hype around him, seems like
smash that all day long.
Right. So
take the over.
Yeah,
there's excitement. But I do think what's funny is we think about how unlikely it was that Bain falls to 15, and how never even talked about it going up to the draft. And it happened at the draft, but even since the draft, all we've said is, we don't know how he fell to 15. What happened? Like, the idea that Light saw him fall to 11 or 12 and didn't pull the trigger on a trade is almost the most amazing part of this to me, because I think you had to know when he's at 12, like, wow, give up a 4th round, 5th round pick, you get him.
Or even a 3rd round, and that's Ted Hurst, right? I mean, he got Ted Hurst and Ruben Bain Jr.
Right. I just, what's funny is, I think now, given how much of the positivity around this team starts with Ruben Bain. Okay, you think about spring, and they lose 7 out of 9, and Mike Evans walks, and Levante retires, and there's not a whole lot of huge names in free agency. I just think if he doesn't fall to it, and if he goes at 13 and they take like a Messidor or somebody who's good and could be good, but right now, I mean, like, are we talking about, like, Al-Qadim Muhammad as a starting outside linebacker? I think he's really front and center in any positivity that started to form around this team. And him, again, as an extension of the entire front seven, and what they've done to kind of import some toughness and nastiness to that front seven, he's kind of the lead part of that. And as much as we can talk about Anzalone and A'Shawn Robinson and getting a healthy Kalijah Kancey, the single biggest piece that wasn't there last year and should be there for the Bucs this year is Ruben Bain.
Yeah, agreed. We have some super chats to get to, so let's not keep the people waiting here. Ryan H. with a $9.99 super chat just wanted to thank all 3 of you for the outstanding coverage you provide as fans. That's why we do this job. I mean, we love covering this team for you and interacting with you on the Bucs Collective, on our own X accounts. And let's give out some X handles. I'm at Pewter Reports.
I'm at Greg Auman, AUMAN.
And at NFL Stroud.
There we go. So we love the interaction. I greatly appreciate this. Thank you for the $9.99 super chat. I've been doing StreamYard for a couple of years now. And Here with Edits is giving us 10 joules. And I'm not sure what that means, but we will take your joules. Thank you for those 10 joules.
I only need 3. Like, you guys can have 3, but I'll just take 3 of the joules.
Okay.
You take,
We greatly appreciate that. So thank you. T Level with the $2 super chat. Y'all's honest thoughts on Cade Otton's extension. I will say this. I'm not the biggest Cade Otton fan. He does a lot of the dirty work. He's reliable. He's dependable. I can see why the coaches really like him, and I can see why Baker Mayfield really trusts him. He's having a really, really good camp. And I thought $10 million a year was, I thought that was a little pricey for Cade Otton. My esteemed colleague, Josh Capo, who knows the salary cap a lot better than I do, says, no, that's going rate. But Rick, I mean, I see this guy get open, catch the ball, get yards by the chunks. I mean, it's not 50 yards down the field, but it's 15 yards here and there. He's a chain mover. He's active in the red zone, and you got to find ways to recoup all those touchdowns that Mike Evans got you. We're seeing Chris Godwin be more active in the end zone. Now Cade Otton's getting more attention there too. What are your guys' thoughts? Rick, we'll start with you.
Look, sometimes you can't let perfect be the enemy of very good. You know, I mean, I think Cade Otton can do everything. Now, does he do everything exceptionally? No. Is he an inline blocker? Is he a decent route runner? Does he catch the ball well? Does he get some yards after the catch? I mean, he's not going to. I don't think he's ever going to make a Pro Bowl.
Right.
But they don't need him to. What he is durable. You know that every Sunday, Monday, Thursday, when you need him, he's going to play. That's not a small thing in this league. Availability is the best ability, of course, and so. And he's also a glue guy. I think people look at a Cade Otton, coach's son, his grandfather was a legend. Like, he just gets ball, and sometimes that you need guys like that. There's like it's not about anything except, like, as a team, let's go out there and win. Do your job. He's a do your job. He would have been a great New England Patriot, from that standpoint. 10 million, I'm not into the fine. Look, these guys, the money is so big. We see what they're charging for Netflix, and they're getting $250 million for a Christmas Day game. I mean, we're not gonna have a telethon for the National Football League here. So I'm happy for him from that standpoint. He's a hell of a nice guy.
Yep.
But he's not a dynamic tight end. When you look around the league, like, he's gonna get his, and here's the number, 600 yards again, this year. And probably not more than that, right? More of a red zone target, perhaps. I mean, you don't have Mike Evans. He should have caught more than one touchdown last year.
Yeah.
In fact, any of the tight ends could have caught more than one touchdown last year, and it didn't happen. But I do think that you'll see him a few more times in that red area. And look, I think he's fine. But they know what they're going to get. Baker's comfortable with him, and the better those receivers are, the more quality receivers that are around Cade Otton, he's a better player.
Yeah, that's a great
point. Put
point.
him in those roles when they've lost Mike and they've lost Chris, and all of a sudden, Cade go out there and catch you 10 for 120.
I know.
If you needed him to, but you don't want him to have to do that, right?
Yeah.
I'm a Cade Otton fan, but I don't get into the money part. I'm happy for him, and they got him for 3 years.
Greg, I think that one of the misnomers with Zach Robinson coming here from Atlanta is the Bucs are going to run pistol all the time. They had to run pistol. They had two immobile quarterbacks with old man Kirk Cousins coming off the Achilles, and then Michael Penix coming off some knee issues. And all of a sudden, look, oops, what happened again, right, with the knee. And the other misnomer was that, Zach Robinson loves tight ends and he's 12 personnel guy all day long. Well, that's because the Falcons missed Drake London for 5 games last year.
Yeah.
And they had to use Kyle Pitts as a wide receiver, essentially. So they were kind of in 12 by default because the Falcons receiving core is nothing to write home about. Now he comes to Tampa Bay, where you've got Chris Godwin, Emeka Egbuka, Jalen McMillan, Tez Johnson, Ted Hurst, and David Sills. The list goes on and on. And now I think he's leaning more into 11 personnel, which is 3 wide receivers. But the tight end that's going to be on the field is Cade Otton. I mean, it's not going to be Payne Durham. They like Bauer Sharp, but he's a rookie. But Cade has a role in this team. He is a bona fide starter.
Yeah, if you look at last year, there were so many games last year where Cade Otton played like 95% of the offensive plays. Like literally one play off, 2 plays off. Otherwise, he's out there every single play, which is really a lot for anything that's not an offensive lineman or a quarterback. Yeah. I think the number that stands out, like Rick said, the reason people are hesitant to give Cade Otton the money, he had 1 touchdown last year.
Yeah.
Again, previous 2 years, he had 4 each year. And I think that's probably what I think 4 or 5 this year is perfectly fine for what the tight end does in this offense.
Fantasy hates him, Greg. Fantasy football players do not like Cade Otton. I can tell you.
The thing that stood out to me watching Friday is if you watched, obviously Cade had the week off. Payne Durham barely played. Bauer Sharp, the rookie tight end. You watched Bauer Sharp moved so much in pre-snap, dancing back and forth, misdirection, starting, stopping. I think he had about 2 miles on his GPS just in pre-snap motion. Okay.
Yeah.
But I see that. And again, that's what Kate Otton's going to be doing. Kate Otton's going to be all over the place, an indicator that can move in pre-snap. So I think of him as somebody, again, I don't think they want to have Kate Otton playing 95% of the snaps.
Right.
I think he can play 80%. And again, Payne Durham steps in or Bauer Sharp steps in. It's probably better long-term. But I think he's in a position where, I mean, you pay Guy $10 million a year. Some of that is that there's not a lot of tight ends out there.
Yeah.
At the time, I think they knew they were getting Mike back. So it was let's keep something we know in the pass game.
Yeah.
But again, if he comes back and has 40 catches for 500 yards and 6 touchdowns, that's earning his keep and playing a ton. The tight ends are always the bridge between the run and the pass. And if this is going to be a more balanced offense, he's going to be part of both sides of that. So again, I get that the money is a lot and it feels like a lot. There's some tight ends that do less than Kate Otton and make a lot more than $10 million.
That's true. So. And I like Bauer Sharp, and I think by the end of the season, wouldn't be surprised if he ends up being tight end too. Nothing against Payne Durham, but he's just more versatile. If he can prove that he can block, and then when you have both of those tight ends, if they go 12 personnel, you essentially have 5 guys that can catch the ball, including the running back and the 2 wide receivers too, because both of those guys are weapons in the passing game, Bauer Sharp and Kate Otton, whereas that's not necessarily the case with Payne Durham. Another super chat here from Marcos, B17, $4.99. Thank you so much. Baker has a chance to cement a legacy here. He can take Jalen under his wing and build a QB successor. Little early for this, but I mean, it's not far-fetched, right? I mean, we'll see what happens. Pump the brakes a little bit, but in an ideal world, that's a hell of a scenario, isn't it?
In the sense that in 4 years, I'm not sure where Baker's going to be or how close to being done he'll be, but that's when Jalen Daniels will be at the end of his rookie contract. If again he makes the 53 and starts his rookie contract this year, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves as a future successor. If he just sticks and is your number 2 down the road, that's a great get for an undrafted guy that took $300,000 guaranteed. That's all it took. That's pennies in the NFL economy to secure even a backup quarterback. So like I said, it's exciting. This is the first step. This is acing your first test of the semester. You don't have the A just yet. Yep,
for sure. We have more jewels to get to. I'm gonna have to Google what these jewels are all about. But we have 200 jewels. Sunshine from Greg Cruz.
That's
Thanks
the most
so much.
I've ever gotten.
Greg DeCruz, appreciate it. And 200 from Harith Edits. So that's fantastic. So let's wrap up the show here talking about, we're going to see Kate Otton, we're going to see Baker Mayfield, Reuben Bain, we're going to see some starters. How long do we envision the starters playing, Rick? Is this a situation where they're guaranteed a series, but what if it's a 3-and-out on defense? What if it's a 3-and-out on offense? Are they going to go a couple series? How is Todd Bowles going to manage the starters on Saturday? What's your thought?
They'll manage them very nervously because the only thing that matters in this league, I'm telling you, folks, is the health of your football team.
Ask Jalen McMillan, right?
Ask Jalen McMillan. Ask any of the guys that got hurt early in the season last year on the offensive line. You have to get to the first race with all your guys, and so. But that said, look, what they play now is not football that we knew. Scott is not. I'm glad there's only 3 preseason games. I wish they do away with all of them. Whatever.
Me too.
But having said that, like, these guys need to get out there. They haven't been on the grass since they beat Carolina and some of these guys together since last January or whatever it was. But they haven't heard the play call except in practice from Zach Robinson. They haven't had to react to an NFL defense across from them. They haven't had to make substitutions and do the operational things, And Baker, look at the defense and pre-snap, post-snap, the rotation, just to see it. Because you don't want to go to Cincinnati and the first time you're on the field together, it counts, right? And you're against Joe Burrow and the Bengals.
If you blow that first drive, you're down 7-0 on the road, right?
Right. And so you want to get your feet wet. Now, if they go 3-and-out, I think we'll see them again.
Yeah.
If they go down the field and they have 8 or 9 plays that look pretty good and they either kick a short field goal or score a touchdown, I don't think you'll see any of them again.
Right. Yeah.
And nor would I play them because I would be the most scared coach in the history of the NFL. I'm telling you. It drives me crazy because every team there's an assassin behind the door,
Yeah.
And you just don't know. We pick up, the waiver wire or the newspaper, or when they had newspapers, or the internet, or whatever, and you see that this team lost this star, that team lost that star, and it's devastating. You don't come back from some of those injuries, and so I think that's while you need to get them some work, it'll be very little work, and then you get them out of there as quickly as you can.
Greg, one of the things that stood out to me about that Jets game up there was we saw very little running, right? And we saw a little bit of Sean Tucker. Yeah. And it makes sense, though, when you have Connor Baselick and you've got Jalen Daniels. They're throwers. They're guys that you want to see them throw the ball, and you need to evaluate guys like Dennis Houston and Garrett Green and Ted Hurst and Dean Patterson IV. You need to evaluate those guys. So like that seemed like it was a really good game plan. Back burner the running game a little bit, but it seems to me with how much this team wants to run the ball, needs to run the ball. Don't listen to me, listen to Baker Mayfield. He'll tell you, right? I think we're going to see a concerted effort to get Bucky Irving going and to really have the emphasis in this game, especially when the starters are out there, to try to run the ball. We know that some of these guys can catch the ball. We know Baker can throw it. It might be a little boring for the fans a little bit, but this is a game, too, where I think if you want to get the offensive line going with that wide zone, kind of establish the run a little bit, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Especially, they're not going to have Tristan Wirfs out there on Saturday. I don't know if they're going to have Ben Chakuma out there. So, you might have a whole tackle where, again, you have the three starters you like on the interior offensive line. So if you want to run the ball between the tackles, they're there for you. And I think that, again, every time you run the ball, Baker Mayfield is not getting sacked. Okay, yeah. So I think there's a safety in turning to the run game.
Exactly right.
And grind. And it's one of those, you can get hurt running the ball too. I was in Vegas on Thursday. And again, like Arizona Cardinals have the number 3 overall pick in Jeremiah Love. And it's nice to show him off, but he got 14 touches. And on the 14th touch, he got a high ankle sprain. And it's one of those where
he's questionable for week 1, right?
Yeah. So that's, you can do too much. And I think it's almost like a lesson that kind of reverberates on the league is, let's err on the side of playing less. Bowles doesn't speak in specific numbers very often, but I think he said the goal is between 8 and 15 snaps on Saturday. So I think you're probably closer to 8 than you are 15 to think about what this team does. It would take a 3 and out and then a really long second drive for them to get to 15. I think if they have a successful drive, a scoring drive, especially a touchdown, push away from the table, be happy to call that a win, and have the experience of being together with nobody getting hurt.
And Greg, you keep an eye on special teams quite a bit. Special teams, this is a work in progress, right? Danny Smith, probably not too pleased with what he saw out there on Friday night, but I would imagine that's an area that you're looking forward to getting more cleaned up this week and maybe a little bit more proficiency. They're trying to find the guys who are going to comprise the special teams unit. It's a little bit of a star search here, right? But they got to get better.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And that's probably the single area where they can be the most improved. I mean, again, you look at the Jets game Friday. Kadarius Callaway muffs a kickoff return at the 1 and is looking around for it on the goal line there. They can get a lot cleaner. I do think it's funny in that we talk about David Walker, okay, and things have gotten so crazy with David Walker that there's fans that are upset that David Walker is playing on special teams.
I know.
Okay, this is your fourth outside linebacker. He will be a special teams regular. He's got to be. So again, like you don't want to see what you think are valuable players being used on special teams because they get hurt there.
Yeah,
that'll be probably one of his main duties on the 53 this year is being a leader, being active on special teams. Yeah. So I do think for all the excitement we've seen with Danny Smith taking over on special teams and the hope of their units not looking anything like last year, because it was just a disastrous year on special teams, from block kicks to giving up returns to penalties on returns. I think that'll be a chance for them to show that on the home field there on Saturday against Kansas City. Kansas City, Dave Tooby, known for great special teams, but this is a chance for the regulars, the guys that'll actually be out there on Sundays this fall, to show they're a better unit on special teams.
We have another Jules outburst here. Stay hydrated. Ryan with 550 joules. I don't know what this means, but it sounds like a rich.
8 earlier.
That's fantastic.
Like 1,000. Awesome.
I know.
Yeah.
And then we have an SRQ Salts, $1.99 super chat. McVay hates preseason. Hell, he hates practices. Laugh out loud. You know, there's another element to Saturday's game. And Rick, you know, you might remember we covered this guy, and you know he's going to be out there up in the booth with Rondé Barber, as this user says, can't wait for Gruden Saturday night. Rick, take it away.
I'll tell you what, man. Rondé Barber's a star of this show, okay? I'm just here, just going to sit there and watch, learn. This Baker Mayfield, though, I mean, this might be the best quarterback in the NFC, okay? I said it. What I love about John is how much hyperbole can you get in one broadcast? That's he never met a guy. If Josh Williams goes, this Josh Williams might be the best back on this football team. You know what I mean? Okay. But no, I think it's going to be like the Manning cast. I think they're just going to kind of cut it up, and there won't be any format. No one's a play-by-play. No one's a color guy. So yeah, it'll be entertaining as hell.
I know it almost. I'm going to tape the game. We're going to be at the stadium, the three of us, watching and doing our day jobs. But I'm going to be anxious to go home and either watch that Saturday night, or if I can stay up, or Sunday morning. It's one of those things that I can't wait to see. We can't wait to see this channel grow, and you guys have done a fantastic job in that endeavor. Greatly appreciate all the supports that you guys have helped us out with when it comes to getting us close to 2,000. We're not there yet, though, so please do us a favor, hit the share button and send this podcast out to some of your friends, family, coworkers that are Bucs fans. That'll help us spread the word more than anything. If you're watching the show for the first time, we're every Tuesday night right here at 7 o'clock on Bucs Collective on YouTube. You can follow us at Bucs HMA on X. I want to thank you for watching, and we'll see you next Tuesday night. And hopefully the Buccaneers, for your sake, will be 2-0. But we'll be back with the next episode of the Bucs Collective.